Mark, thank you for taking time for this. I appreciate it. As we start, can you maybe talk a little bit about your current role and your career trajectory?
Yeah, so I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Living Security. What that means is I work predominantly on the biz dev side of the house. How do we, facilitate conversations, get the brand out in the market, and then acquiring new customers, and then also on the growth side, right? So how do we really impact our NRR by servicing and keeping our clients successful and happy, but also growing them when we come out with new products or ways to grow the relationship. So those are my two main focus here at Living Security.
I understand. I understand. So that's kind of your current role now. And can you talk maybe a little bit about more of the kind of the trajectory of your career, some of the previous roles that got you to that point?
Yeah, so I've started as an entrepreneur, started with a couple of friends at a consulting agency that taught us a ton. We didn't know a whole lot about business, so cut my teeth there. When I moved back to Boston, I got into more of a traditional account executive role, which really helps me, do the job that I have today, right? You understand how clients think, how they budget, how your product or offering fits into their world, as opposed to thinking about just my product. And I learned from some amazing colleagues and leaders as an account executive. So I really worked as a direct account executive for 6 or 7 years before getting tapped for that first director role. And then it moved very quickly from there. It was a director for 12 months to a VP for 36 months. And that's when I made the jump from services into more of a traditional SaaS leadership model. So I've done everything from direct sales through leadership, both on the services and kind of breaking that glass ceiling to get into tech sales. A lot of people believe you need a tech background to be successful in sales. I don't believe that. So that's kind of the trajectory that got me here today.
It's awesome. It sounds like an amazing career as the space is exploding in popularity, whether by just the number of open positions and the number of companies getting funded. Well, up till now, with just how much VC money was going into the space, it seems, I guess it just becomes top of mind for so many more people, from board level to C-level executives to kind of like a population at large. And as a result, I think more and more people are looking at the space to make a career, whether it's maybe more junior professionals, maybe someone looking to switch from pure tech to security, or even kind of students kind of pondering what to do with their lives. From your vantage point, what would you recommend maybe some of the junior professionals, what should they focus on to set them up for success?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great space to be in right now, both on the practitioner side or on the sales side, right? So you can go into the vendor community and work your way up. Everyone is always looking for qualified biz dev people, sales development. But I talk to our clients every day. The majority of them have 6, 8, 10 open recs for their positions open. And they're all starting to talk about hiring and developing talent as opposed to hiring people with defined skill sets or degrees or backgrounds. So now more than ever, I would say, shoot your shot, right? Go out, network, try to find your ins into these roles, and don't undervalue the skill sets that you bring. But also don't try to position yourself as someone that's been doing this for 5 years, right? Find the organizations that want to develop homegrown talent. They desperately need help right now in cybersecurity. And then from a sales perspective, find that organization that's slowly growing. You want to move into a company that's going in the right direction, has the right VCs backing them, and then leadership that can help facilitate your growth, right? You always want to look at what's 3 to 5 years out. And if organizations like sales departments are moving people up into the organization, that's a path you want to get on. So
Certainly.
Those are the two ways that I would look at it.
Certainly. It sounds like in some cases, being open to different opportunities and networking and having the right attitude would go a long way versus getting credentialed or getting the right pedigrees. So it's willing to roll up the sleeves and start maybe at a position a little bit lower than you thought, but kind of working your way up in an organization that's on the right wave that will take you places.
Yeah, and I would just say don't be afraid, right? A lot, particularly in cyber, right? You have a lot of tech savvy people, and then it's cyber savvy. I think a lot of people get fearful with the cyber side. They don't have 5 years experience, so they don't understand all the vernacular. So they don't make the jump. I would say now is a really strong time to go find a place that would be willing to foster and grow you in that, and people are in desperate need of help, talented people.
Absolutely, absolutely. It seems like every now and then there is a certain meme or certain notion that captures everyone's attention in sales and marketing, kind of broadly. At one point, it was everything was inbound. I know HubSpot did such a great job, owning this term, and the conferences and products around that. And I think very quickly people realized that inbound is awesome, but it takes a while to get this flywheel going, and only a small percentage, a small fraction of people who come into your website are qualified and would eventually convert. So obviously it was not a silver bullet. Then, I mean, during COVID, obviously RSA Black Hat kind of went away and everyone went virtual. So virtual events were all the rage. I see now that up until now, I think PLG somehow captured everyone's attention. And I think tomorrow it's going to be Chat GPT. So it's almost, I don't know if it's a shiny penny syndrome, but it seems like every now and then there's kind of one meme that captures everyone's attention. So I'm sure you've seen through your kind of trajectory, through your career, you've seen this show, you've seen this movie multiple times. What is working for you now? Like, what is, it may be not kind of very popular tactic, but what's currently in your toolbox that you use most often?
So all the on the hub side, I come from the MarTech background. So I've been selling, and I have a 10-year history of selling to marketers and in technology there. So I get the value of inbound, and conversion rates need to be very high there. And then you look at the chat, right? Particularly with cyber, people are worried about, is this going to be a threat or is this going to be a benefit to us? So it's a very interesting model, and I think that will change content development and blogs and thought leadership. The tool that I use the most out of all of them, we have tools for outbound marketing, for our CRM, Gong for coaching and mentoring and sharing notes back with the clients. The one that I believe is the future that's going to be mass adopted is the idea of intent. If you can truly capture intent, that's when you can start fishing in smaller ponds, right? So in my world, we're rolling out a new category of human risk management. How do we get our arms around what our people are doing Monday through Friday and start correlating that data in actionable ways? So I want to go into a platform like 6sense, and I want to know who the early adopters are. Who are the people searching for this? Do I have to educate you, and my team have to educate you on why this is the future? Or are you trying to find solutions to this currently and you just don't know we exist? So for me, it's how do you use all of those tools along with intent to get the people that are where you're at now, right? You can evangelize all you want, but you want to talk to people that are already thinking about the things that you do. And then they just want to understand it a little bit more. So I'm very big on intent. I'm not cold outbound, hitting the phones all day, every day. There's a home for that in certain places, but for the most part, go fishing in the ponds where the fish are. And for
absolutely.
me,
and do you think it's that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's kind of resonates with a lot of sales executives. Do you think it's stage dependent, meaning as for like certain size companies or certain stage startups that are maybe they want to make sure that the resources go a long way, and they want to make sure that they pick their battles correctly. Intent, talking to people who showed intent, it certainly makes a lot of sense because you pretty much guaranteed shorter sales cycles. Just to double click on what you said, we're noticing that some of the companies, they realize that at some point they exhaust let's say there is total addressable market, and only a certain percentage of that, of companies who kind of fit your ideal client profile would show intent. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%. But at some point, that's not enough to fulfill growth objectives. And that's when evangelism comes into place. Do you think it's kind of stage dependent, or do you think if done correctly, you will never run out of prospects who are showing intent or showing potential interest in your product?
So there's different levels of intent, right? So let's just say from a category perspective, there's 5 layers of intent.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have 10% intent score, you're in for a long road anyhow, right? If people aren't out searching for this and thinking about it and trying to network around it and going to the Foresters and the Gartners searching for this,
mm-hmm.
you buy all the tools in the world, you're not going to get mass adoption if they're not
mm-hmm.
out searching for it. So the real question is, if there is product market fit and you're at the right stage and you have the right product, there should be enough there to go after it. The difficult part is these tools are not cheap. And the one thing I will say is, out of the last 3 stops that I've had where you have to come in and kind of build everything from ground up, I would almost start with intent first now, whereas before, I need a good list automation tool. I need a good CRM and an outbound tool because I want to go wide and try to set up as many conversations as possible. Now I would almost say with my first hire, I'm arming them with real intent data because I don't need the list. I can go to LinkedIn or I can go figure out what your email is. I think intent gives a lot of confidence to a team as you're trying to figure out what your process is. That yes, people are out there talking about this. That's great. And it allows you to not set up a lot of conversations that aren't very fruitful. Typically, when you connect with somebody who's on your intent score, if it's not them, they'll tell you who does care about this internally when you're talking their language.
Certainly makes sense. I understand. You mentioned you come from a MarTech background, so I think you have perspectives from both the marketing side of the house and kind of the business development sales side. And I know some organizations are very good into aligning kind of both teams around the same goal, the same kind of North Star. And other organizations are still, there's certain friction. And I think it's around incentives. Usually sales teams tend to be incentivized around more kind of monthly, quarterly goals, and marketing is still dealing with this notion that half of my marketing budget is wasted. I just don't know which one. So there's a bit of that going on, and kind of you're not producing enough leads, or your leads are not good enough, or you don't act on the leads that we provide. So there's always there's some healthy and sometimes even beyond that kind of friction between the two departments. From kind of your perspective and having the benefit of both perspectives, what are some of the ways how companies can structure communication, goal setting processes between the two teams that you think would provide this alignment that will make this collaboration make it more smooth?
Yeah, so I'll put a big asterisk on this. I've predominantly worked at companies 200 employees and smaller. When I'm coming to scale, it's a smaller company, right? So when I was coming up selling to CMOs, I heard all about the friction between the two organizations, and when you're that big, it's easier for little things to get in the way. So, when I look at my teams that we've put together in my colleagues on marketing, it comes down to an SLA. What is our agreement between the two of us? It's in writing, and we both stamp it in front of the CEO. And anything that deviates from that can be adjusted, but it's a conversation. So general SLAs. 2, I think it's I don't think it's talked about enough when we talk about culture, but do you genuinely respect and appreciate the person you're working with? So when I'm interviewing, particularly sales and marketing, everyone's got a great resume. Do I get along with this person? Can I have a business conversation? Can we disagree? And at the end of the 45 minutes, walk away and be perfectly fine with it. So I think the personality types is a big part of it. And then the last piece is the more and more software that gets into it. If you let attribution cause you an issue, whether it's a marriage, a personal relationship, or at work, I get credit for this and you get credit for that is a major problem. So I look at it at 3 levels: total meetings booked, total pipeline, and total outcome and conversion rates to revenue. How we get to any of those is irrelevant to me. So I learned pretty early on, I'm not going to get into a fight as, was that an SQL or an MQL, or was that a cold meeting from the BDR team? We look at it as a total achievable pipeline goal. And the revenue team needs to convert those opportunities at a rate that allows us to grow. Don't let attribution cause problems that don't need to be there.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I think there's a lot of talk recently about, I'm not sure if you saw this, about like the dark funnels, all the conversations that happen in the hallways, and misattribution, where everything comes from direct search, but in reality, someone listened to a podcast or someone had a conversation at a conference. Yes, they went directly or they searched for the company name, but there was like a lot of history before that doesn't get captured. So it's certainly aligning around high-level goals. It certainly makes a lot of sense. Looking into the future, I was imagine you have a crystal ball and you can see what the future is going to look like when 6 months from now, maybe 12 months from now. What are the top 3 things everyone will be talking about in cybersecurity at cybersecurity sales meetings, at cybersecurity vendors?
Yeah, so I mean, let's go glass half full. I think I think the teams that come out of the challenging time will be doing one very specific thing, which is delivering value constantly without the expectation of an outcome, a purchase order, a signed deal. I've been doing this a long time, and I know the projects that get funded are the ones that are well thought out. They have a plan and they have executive backing. When these budgets loosen up, the people that have those 3 things in a bow are going to go very quickly. And I think things will open up in Q3 and Q4. So the teams that continue to work are going to see the outcome of budgets freeing up a little bit, because cyber can't rest too long. It's not marketing where you can downshift on demand gen a little bit. The pressure is on to keep the organization secure. So those are going to go really quickly. So I think we're going to see a huge jump in pipeline development the first half of this year, and then quick close rates and conversion rates on the second half of the year. Hopefully, I think that's going to be the teams that do really well this year are going to be the pre-works the first half of the year, didn't get down on themselves and continue to execute. I think we're going to, for me personally, in the role in cyber that we're in, we're really focused on the people. I think it's not going to happen this year. I think we're starting to feel it, particularly our brand is starting to feel it. But I think going into 2024, people are going to be talking more about the people as an asset as opposed to a major risk. Reason being they're viewed as a risk now is it's really hard to monitor what people are doing Monday through Friday and what's acceptable risk versus unacceptable risk. So we're spending a lot of time talking about human risk management and how to be able to get a 360 view on the user. And I'm hoping that becomes just as much of a part of the conversation as the technology is. How do we wrap our company in technology, and how do we start viewing and enabling the people to make better decisions for them? So those are the 2 big trends where I see a big uptick in spend and focus second half of the year, and then a real focus on the people going into 2024.
I see. Awesome. I know we're coming up on time, so Mark, 2 quick questions. And to fill in the blanks, in 2023, I wish cybersecurity practitioners, CISOs would fill in the blank. And in 2023, I wish cybersecurity sales teams would fill in the blank. What would those be?
I would love the CISOs to really become change agents, really time to think about things they can do differently, challenge their team to do that. We work with a lot of great CISOs, and the ones that I enjoy watching the most are the ones that will tell a team to go try to do something dramatically different and come back with a plan for it. So I think for me, looking at the CISO as a seat at the table, right at that executive level, be able to manage up to the board and describe risk there, but also challenge the teams to think a little bit differently going into this year. And as far as the sales world goes, I think we need to step up a little bit right now. I think dollars were a little bit easy to come by. I think the normal presentation, demo, couple testimonials was good enough to get us dollars, 2020, 2021. And then things got hard in 2022, and there's a lot of excuses going on, and it's macro and there's nothing we can do there. When in reality, I think if we use this as a time to say back and what can we do differently, right? I challenge the CISOs to think a little bit differently. I also challenge the team. How can we enable them to understand problems differently? How can we create efficiencies in their business? How can we de-risk the organization by doing simple things? I think sales needs to get a lot better too, and do their homework and understand how the landscape's evolving and how we fit into the big picture as opposed to the product or offering that we sell.
And is it around kind of doing more with less? Is it more kind of speeding up time to value for prospects? Is it more about evangelism and education? And is it better at identifying like intent, or maybe all of the above? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I think intent would be if I only have time for 10 conversations a week, I want to be with 10 people who think like me, and that are trying to accomplish similar goals. So the intent part is just the meeting that we're in. What I see a lot when I either interview salespeople or my own team, we talk about the product explicitly around what we know it can do for their business, and great reps, and that's good enough to get deals. But when I sit back and I actually had a conversation with a rep from another company last week, what I was really impressed by just listening to the conversation was she understood how not only the product fit into their environment, but how that would impact the things they do with their SIM, and the things that they do with their password manager, and the things they do with their web browsing tool. So she had a much bigger view of their total organization's goals. Yes, I can scratch the itch that you have right now, which is why you're talking to me. But did you ever think about how we can create efficiencies in your other tech spend, or how we can automate these other aspects of your business? So when I say master the sale, it's not just my product fitting into your environment, but how could that create efficiencies throughout the security department? And I think that's what separates good from great. And I think that's what gets dollars in very difficult times, is painting a bigger picture than what you see right in front of you.
Certainly. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you? Are you mostly on LinkedIn, Twitter? What's your preferred?
Yeah, so LinkedIn for living security. That's the best place to find us. We're always out there growing our brand, and then obviously the normal events that we had talked about before we got going today. It's not hard to find us. So yeah, I'm excited to continue getting the word out there and seeing where it goes.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Misha. Have a good one.